3 years ago, if someone told you that a piece of software could replace the work of millions of people, most people probably wouldn't have believed it. Today, that sounds a lot less impossible. The world has changed. Are you absolutely certain your job won't be affected by AI in the next few years? And if one day you really did lose that job, would you be prepared for what comes next? That's usually when people start thinking about family, friends, and the people who might be able to help them. But after the initial panic fades, many come to the same realization. The people around you are dealing with responsibilities of their own. They have bills to pay. They have children to raise.
They have aging parents to care for. They have their own problems to solve. It's not that they don't want to help you, it's that they can't live your life for you.
In this video, we're going to look at some of the challenges that almost every adult will face sooner or later, and more importantly, how to prepare for them before they arrive.
And if you're working toward a stronger future for yourself and your family, subscribe to MindForge so you don't future videos like this.
Before we talk about money, family, or responsibility, let's start with the place where most of us earn our living, our jobs.
How old are you? 20? 30? 40? 50?
No matter your age, you've probably heard someone say, AI is going to replace people. For years, that sounded more like science fiction than reality. Today, it's becoming harder to ignore. Imagine you worked in customer service 5 years ago. Your job was answering emails, responding to common questions, and helping customers solve basic problems.
Today, a growing share of that work can be handled by AI-powered chatbots around the clock.
They don't take lunch breaks. They don't call in sick. They don't go on vacation.
If you're a graphic designer, you've already seen how much the industry has changed in just the last couple of years. Tasks that once took hours can now be completed in minutes.
If you're a video editor, you've probably noticed how AI tools can generate captions, remove background noise, translate content, and even create rough cuts automatically.
If you're an accountant, AI is beginning to assist with data analysis, reporting, and many of the repetitive tasks that once required manual work.
Does that mean these professions are disappearing? Not necessarily.
But it does mean that someone who knows how to use AI can often accomplish far more work in the same amount of time than someone who doesn't.
And history has taught us something important. When productivity increases, hiring doesn't always increase with it.
That's why so many people feel uneasy right now. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack talent,
but because the world is changing faster than they expected.
In China, cities like Wuhan, Beijing, and Shenzhen have already begun expanding self-driving taxi programs.
If you're a 45-year-old taxi driver who's spent the last 20 years behind the wheel, that isn't just a technology story anymore.
It's a livelihood story. It's a story about what happens when the profession you've relied on for decades begins to change.
And that's a question all of us should think about. If your current job disappeared tomorrow, what would you do?
Not emotionally, financially. How long could you maintain your current lifestyle?
For a moment, let's put AI aside. Because even if AI didn't exist, life would still come with its own set of challenges.
Think about the timeline of an average life.
If you're in your 20s, your list of responsibilities may still be relatively short.
You earn money, spend money on yourself, and pay a handful of basic bills.
if you make a mistake, you usually have enough time to recover and start over.
But life doesn't stay in your 20s forever. At some point, you begin to notice something. Your parents aren't getting any younger.
It doesn't happen overnight. There isn't some dramatic moment when everything suddenly changes. It happens gradually. A few more doctor visits. A few more medications sitting on the kitchen counter. More conversations about blood pressure, back pain, or diabetes. And one day, you realize that the people who spent decades taking care of you are beginning to need help themselves. If you live in the United States, long-term care for an aging parent can easily cost more than $100,000 a year, depending on the level of care and where they live.
Take a moment and think about that number. $100,000.
If your parents needed that kind of support tomorrow, what would your plan be? Life keeps moving. Maybe you get married. Maybe you have children.
And that's when many people start looking at money differently.
When you're single, you can survive a month of unemployment. You can cut expenses. You can simplify your lifestyle.
But when other people depend on you, every financial decision carries more weight.
Recent estimates suggest that raising a child in the United States can cost well over $300,000 by the time they turn 18.
Now ask yourself a question. If you don't live in the United States, what would that number look like where you live? Have you ever actually calculated it? Or are you simply hoping everything will work out? Then there's health. Something most people take for granted when they're young.
At least until they or someone they love faces a serious problem.
A surgery. An accident. An injury. An unexpected medical bill.
A period of time when working simply isn't possible. Life rarely asks whether you're ready. It just happens.
And that's when many people discover that the biggest challenge isn't a single crisis. It's several crises showing up at the same time. You lose your job. Your parents need more support. Your children need more resources. Your health begins demanding attention.
That's when life stops asking questions and starts testing how prepared you really are.
At this point, you might be thinking, all right, life already comes with enough responsibilities. And that's true.
But what pushes many people into a crisis isn't the responsibilities they can see coming. It's the events they never imagined would happen to them.
Nobody wakes up in the morning expecting to be laid off.
Nobody gets married planning for a divorce. Nobody starts a business expecting it to fail.
Nobody signs an employment contract assuming the company will shut down a few years later.
Yet if you look back over the last decade, these things have happened to millions of people.
COVID eliminated jobs almost overnight.
Companies that once seemed stable disappeared in a matter of months.
Entire industries that looked safe suddenly began cutting staff. And now AI is creating another wave of disruption.
What's interesting is that these events rarely arrive one at a time. You lose your job, just as hiring slows down. Interest rates are rising. The cost of living is increasing. Your parents need more support. Your children are entering the most expensive stage of their lives. That's why so many people feel as if life is working against them. But the truth is, life is simply doing what it has always done.
It doesn't send a calendar invitation. It doesn't give you 6 months' notice. It doesn't wait until you're ready.
Think about this for a moment. If your company announced layoffs tomorrow and your name was on the list, what would the next 30 days actually look like?
Not the ideal answer, the real answer. Where would the money come from?
Where would you look for work?
Which expenses would you cut first? Who would you call?
If you don't have clear answers to those questions, you're not alone.
But that's exactly why the next part of this video matters.
Because the difference between someone who survives a crisis and someone who gets overwhelmed by it usually isn't luck. It's preparation.
This is the point where many videos on the internet start talking about positive thinking.
Believe in yourself. Work harder. Never give up.
And while those ideas have their place, they won't pay your rent if you lose your job next month.
What we need are practical solutions. Things you can start working on this week, not next year. Not when life becomes easier. Right now.
One of the biggest misconceptions about AI is that it's only for programmers, engineers, or people working in technology.
That's a lot like believing in the year 2000 that the internet was only useful for computer scientists.
Today, nearly every profession relies on the internet in some way. AI is likely heading in the same direction. The good news is that getting started has never been easier.
You don't need an expensive degree. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on courses.
Most of the information a beginner needs is already available for free.
The problem isn't access to information anymore.
The problem is that many people are still standing on the sidelines. They read articles about AI. They watch videos about AI. They worry about AI.
But they've never spent a serious amount of time learning how to use it.
Think about it this way.
If you're a video editor, AI can help you create captions, remove background noise, translate content, and speed up your workflow. If you're a designer, AI can help generate ideas, create drafts, and reduce repetitive work.
If you work in marketing, AI can assist with research, content creation, and data analysis.
If you work in an office, it can automate many of the repetitive tasks that consume your day.
The people who benefit most from a technological shift are rarely the ones who invented it.
They're the ones who learned how to use it before everyone else.
Let's do a simple exercise. If your primary source of income disappeared tomorrow, how many other sources of income would you still have?
For many people, the answer is none. And that's a significant risk. Imagine sitting on a chair with only one leg.
As long as that leg stays intact, everything seems fine. But the moment it breaks, you hit the ground immediately.
That's how many people build their financial lives. Everything depends on a single paycheck. What's remarkable is that creating a second source of income has never been more accessible than it is today.
You don't need an office. You don't need employees. You don't need tens of thousands of dollars in startup capital. Every day, small businesses across the internet are looking for people to solve relatively simple problems. Writing content, designing graphics in Canva, editing short-form videos, managing emails, entering data, providing customer support, scheduling social media posts.
These opportunities exist on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, and countless freelance marketplaces.
Some projects pay $30. Others pay $100. Some pay several hundred.
Will that money change your life overnight? Probably not.
But that's not the point. The point is that you're creating options.
And options become incredibly valuable when life becomes unpredictable.
If you have a product that can be shipped, the internet has already given you access to a global marketplace. And if you don't have a product, you can still sell someone else's through affiliate marketing.
Many people dismiss affiliate marketing because they've only seen the hype surrounding it.
But the model itself is simple. You recommend a product. The company handles inventory, fulfillment, and customer service. You earn a commission.
Will everyone succeed? Of course not. But success isn't the first goal. The first goal is to build another door before life closes the one you're currently walking through.
A lot of people think emergency funds are boring, at least until they need one. Imagine losing your job. Not forever, just for 3 months.
Who pays the rent? Who covers your insurance? Who pays for groceries, utilities, internet, and everything else that keeps life moving?
That's where an emergency fund comes in.
Or maybe your car breaks down unexpectedly.
Maybe you need surgery.
Maybe your parents suddenly need financial support.
Maybe your child faces an expense you never saw coming. An emergency fund isn't there to make you rich.
It's there to prevent a temporary problem from turning into a financial disaster. If you're earning $5,000 a month, consider starting with just 5%. If possible, increase it to 10%. Eventually, work toward 15%.
Your first goal isn't $100,000. Your first goal is 1 month of living expenses.
Then 3 months, then 6 months.
Because what you're really building isn't just a pile of money. You're buying yourself time.
And during a crisis, time is often the most valuable asset you can have.
When people think about preparing for the future, they usually think about money.
Because even if you have money, you'll still struggle if you don't have time.
If your parents need help, you need time.
If you need to learn a new skill, you need time. If you lose your job and need to change careers, you need time. If you want to build a second source of income, you need time.
The problem is that many people are spending this asset without realizing it.
Take out your phone and look at your screen time report.
How many hours did you spend on social media last week? 2 hours a day? 3? 4?
If you're spending an average of 3 hours a day scrolling through social media, that's more than 1,000 hours every year. Think about that for a moment.
1,000 hours is enough time to learn the fundamentals of a new language.
It's enough time to learn video editing, graphic design, AI tools, content creation, or build a small freelance business.
It's enough time to launch a YouTube channel.
Of course, nobody needs to become a productivity machine.
Life needs entertainment. Life needs rest. Life needs moments that serve no purpose at all. But there's a huge difference between intentionally spending your time and unconsciously losing it.
Many people say they don't have time to learn. They don't have time to read. They don't have time to improve themselves.
Then they check their phones and discover they've spent hundreds of hours consuming content they won't even remember a week later.
That's why I like to think of it as a time reserve.
Just like money, time needs to be invested.
If you can reclaim just 1 hour a day from activities that add little real value to your life, you'll gain more than 365 hours every year.
Those hours can become a new skill, a new source of income, a new career opportunity, or simply a better version of yourself. Nobody can give you more time, but you can decide to use the time you already have differently. Something interesting happens when people go through difficult times. They quickly discover who truly matters in their lives. Try a simple exercise. If you faced a real crisis tonight, not a bad day, not a minor inconvenience, but a genuine crisis, who would you call first? Take a moment and think of the first name that comes to mind. Now ask yourself a harder question. Are you certain they would answer?
And if they did answer, are you certain they would show up?
Many people have thousands of followers on social media, hundreds of contacts in their phones, and dozens of interactions every single day.
But when life becomes genuinely difficult, that list often shrinks very quickly. In the end, only a handful of people remain. That's why the most important relationships in your life aren't built during a crisis. They're built long before one arrives. So how do you build them?
Not through inspirational quotes, not through motivational posts, but through ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Keeping your promises, showing up when you say you will,
checking in on people without needing anything in return, making time for those who matter, helping when you're able to help,
listening when someone needs to be heard.
Many people only reach out to friends when they need something.
But the strongest relationships are usually built during the ordinary seasons of life.
A phone call, a shared meal, a conversation, a simple message asking how someone is doing. Small actions compound over time, much like money deposited into a bank account. Then when a crisis eventually arrives, you're not starting from zero. You're drawing from years of trust you've already built.
And there's one final point worth remembering. Don't just build relationships with people who might help you one day.
Become the kind of person others genuinely want to help. That's a very different thing.
Reliable people. Responsible people. People who keep their word. People who show up when it matters. Those are often the people who receive support when life tests them.
Not because the world owes them anything, but because they've spent years earning trust. Let's return to the question we started with. What happens if AI affects your job one day?
Maybe it won't happen this year. Maybe it won't happen within the next 5 years.
Or maybe it's already happening and you simply haven't noticed yet. But after everything we've talked about, That may no longer be the most important question, because AI is just one example.
Before AI, there was the internet. Before the internet, there was automation. And after AI, there will be something else.
The world keeps changing. The job market keeps changing. Life keeps changing. Your parents will get older. Your children will grow up. Expenses will rise. Your health will change. And unexpected problems will still appear. You can't control all of those things. Nobody can.
But you can control how prepared you are for them.
You can learn new skills.
You can build additional income streams.
You can create an emergency fund.
You can use your time more intentionally.
You can build meaningful relationships.
One step at a time. One decision at a time.
Not because you're pessimistic. Not because you're afraid.
But because you've accepted a simple truth. Nobody is coming to save you.
And that's not bad news.
Because the moment you accept that reality is the moment you begin building a stronger life. A life that doesn't depend on luck. A life that doesn't depend on someone else rescuing you. A life built on preparation, responsibility, and the choices you make today. If this video made you think, leave a comment and tell us the first thing you're going to start preparing for after watching. And if you want to build a stronger future in an increasingly uncertain world, subscribe to MindForge and join us for the next video.